All right. Well, hello, everyone. I think this is our fourth installment, potentially our fifth. I've lost track, of where I get to interview a worship team volunteer that you may or may not have had the pleasure of playing with. And this week, I have our very own uh, Arreanna Polk with us. She's a college student. And so, Ariana, first question. You've told me this before, but how do you pronounce your first name?
Okay. So there's a little bit of a fun story behind the name. Basically, my parents could not agree on what to call me. So usually I just tell people whatever you're comfortable with, as long as it's not arena. I don't hold horses. So it's either Ariana or Ariana.
Okay.
Kind of just depends on which parent you want to agree with, but I really
Okay.
don't mind as long as it's something close. I mean, I've had people call me Adriana, and I'm like, okay, cool. I have
That
a T in my
works.
name now.
You're pretty chill. So did one parent call you pronounce it one way and then another parent pronounce it the other way?
And they still do
Wow,
to this day.
that's
Still can't
crazy.
agree.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for joining me. Pleasure to have you. So, just start off, tell me a little bit about your backstory. I mean, I know you're in college, all that kind of stuff, but yeah, just share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, yeah, I go to University of Oregon. I'm from Grants Pass, Oregon, in the Southern Oregon area. I also grew up half of the time in Portland. So I'm very much so an Oregonian.
Mhm.
Um, really love the outdoors. I'm really artsy. Oh, what else? Um, I think that's a good description of me. I mean,
What are you
yeah.
studying at the UO?
Oh, yeah, that's good. I'm studying human physiology.
Okay.
Fingers crossed, I want to become a pediatric physical therapist, but also, I mean, it kind of just depends on what the Lord has planned because He
Mhm.
could be like, no. And then it's just, okay, cool. But, you know,
So what interested you about that major? How did you come to that decision?
yeah. So in high school, I took a first aid training class and it's emergency first aid. And that was really cool. And then I instantly fell in love with medicine. I was like, okay, cool. This is what I love. But then after doing some shadowing and some research, I kind of just figured out that I didn't want to be a doctor. I
Mhm.
really care about connections with other people. And as a doctor, you're doing a lot of paperwork and you really don't get to spend a lot of time with the patients. So I was like, well, what else do I really like? And I love exercising and being active. And that's something that's super fun. I was like, okay, well, what's kind of similar, but you also just get to hang out with people all day.
Yeah.
And so physical therapy just kind of fell in my lap. And I started doing more research and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so awesome. But I also knew I wanted to work with kids. I've always done volunteer work with kids and then children's ministry. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I love children. Adults are way more boring and less fun. So I figured out you can actually specialize in pediatrics with
Yeah,
physical therapy. So that's
that's
kind of
awesome.
how whole process.
That's great. Yeah, I had no idea that you could specialize, but you know, based on what I know you and hearing your passion for it, sounds like you'd be great at that.
Yeah, definitely something that I think would be really cool to
Yeah.
pursue.
Well, so what year are you?
I am a sophomore, the
Okay,
second year.
nice. Great. Well, so then tell me a little bit about, I always love hearing about people's testimonies, and especially for these interviews. So maybe share your testimony with us, and then after that, how you came to UFC and all that. So yeah, start with your
Okay,
testimony.
great. So I've really been working on this and practicing and like typing it out because I've realized when people ask me to share my testimonies, I'm all over the place. I'm like, okay, let's get this down a little bit. But basically, so I grew up in a very, very loving family. Like I never had shied away from support or love, but they weren't religious.
Hmm.
And at a very young age, my mom and my dad got divorced. I was 3. Um, and from there, it was either my mom and I or my mom and my stepdad, but they were really off and on. And so growing up, I just kind of felt lost. And then I ended up becoming really depressed, and I struggled with a lot of anxiety. And I kind of just was no longer happy. I was just kind of trapped in these feelings, and I keep my emotions very in
Hmm.
centered. So I didn't have an escape. Um, and then my junior year of high school, I was 17 at the time. I got cast in a musical, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers,
Oh yeah.
and I got cast with this girl named Zimri, who was going to play my best friend. We had never met. She didn't go to school with me. She was homeschooled. And so we were like, okay, well, if we're playing best friends, we should at least get to know each other, kind of. So we decided to spend a day together. And then we hung out and we instantly clicked. She's just so amazing, but she's really dead set on like the gospel. And she's like, okay, like I want you to be like my best friend, actually, but also you can't really like, So she's like, how do you feel about God? And I'm like, I don't know. And so the very next Sunday, I went to church with her. It's Edgewater and Grants Pass. And then everything just changed. It was so amazing. And it's been such an amazing transformation. But I instantly fell in love with the Lord. And Edgewater was just such a great home for me. They like took me in. And then that August, I ended up getting baptized.
Oh
And
wow.
that
Congrats.
was the coolest change in my life. And then from there, I just got more and more involved in Edgewater, and I started doing children's ministry, and I started going to the high school group, even though I'm still very shy and awkward. And so, like, I'm an extrovert, but meeting people, I'm always just a little dorky, but it's okay. I've come to accept that about myself. I'm just a little awkward. It's cool. So I went to the high school group. I started bonding with people, and then I came up to U of O, and then that was just kind of a hard first year.
Hmm.
I was really looking for a church, but I couldn't find one. I ended up attending a cult at one point on accident, and that was
What?
kind of scary. I was, whew,
Well, you made it out.
I made it out. I was just very polite and very quiet, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is really scary, but I'm okay. I'm here. So it was really hard, and I kind of had slipped back into just, I had something in me because I still had like the hope that Jesus had instilled in me, but it's just hard not being in a community of believers. Um,
Hmm.
but then I had talked to one of my friends, and she's not even Christian, which is the craziest thing, but she was like, have you heard about Good Fight? You should go there. And at the time, I was in a club, and we met Tuesday nights at the same exact time Good Fight started. But then coming back this year, I was like, okay, that Good Fight group, I need to get in with them. I really want to meet them. I've heard so many great things about them.
Hmm.
So I moved up to Eugene permanently this year, and it was the very beginning of September, and I went to UFC the very first time, and instantly Ferris spotted me. She just has this intuition about her, and she's like, this girl, she's in college. So she's like, hey, are you alone? And I was like, yeah. She's like, here, come meet all these college kids. And so she stuck me up front in our little pack group of college students. And then I met just so many people. Karis, I had seen around, same with Sydney. Um, and then I bonded with a girl named Cheyenne and Summer, who does a lot of work. Like I started talking to Summer a little bit. And then from there, I've been going to UFC, and it's been absolutely amazing. And even now, like God's just working so much more in my life. I think just even through quarantine and these past couple of months, I've grown so much in my faith and my walk. And I mean, I've only been a Christian for about 2.5 years. So definitely been a big curve, but definitely just like strongest point in my life right now. And
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Well, that is awesome. And I had never heard your testimony before. And so it's great to hear just the way that people have been used in your life, and even like a non-Christian to bring you to the good fight. Like, that's pretty cool. And then also just to hear your enthusiasm and what God is doing in your heart. I mean, that's very apparent and evident.
Yeah.
So, and it's awesome to see you, obviously I get to work alongside of you in the worship ministry, and just your commitment there. I mean, we were doing practices at, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you were consistent pretty much every time. So maybe you could share a little bit with people, like what you do at UFC, and what you really enjoy about what you get to do.
All right, great. Well, luckily, I've just been so blessed that I get to kind of hop into multiple aspects of health in UFC. So obviously, I do worship, which is so cool. Oh my goodness. Something I had always, even from the first time I attended church, I saw the worship team and I was like, oh my goodness, I won't like that. It has to be something I do someday. And so that's super amazing. And I thought I was going to start out playing guitar for you guys. But after seeing the talent you and Logan had, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't keep up. And that is okay. I'm totally okay with that. So yeah, I started singing for you guys. And oh my goodness, that's been just so amazing. I think the coolest thing about worship, I don't know, it's just something about it makes you feel so close to the Lord, and you're just like so involved in a community, and it's just the most amazing feeling. And whenever we go out and play for like Good Fight, it's so cool. So I do that and I love that. And then I also get to be a part of the children's ministry, which
Mm-hmm.
is so great. I kind of just pop around, depending on where they need me. And as much as they want me, I'm like, you don't have to keep me on a schedule. If you guys need help and you want me in a certain age group, I'll be there. It doesn't matter to me. But so I've been in the infant room, and I didn't know Brianna was your wife, but I actually got to do some weekends with her, and that was really cute. Lately, I've been with the 2s and 3s, and oh my goodness, little stinkers sometimes. They're so cute, and it's so cute. Just oh my gosh. So yeah, I do that, and I love that too. And so those are the two main things I'm doing, and we'll see. The more I can get plugged into the church, I am. So
Yeah, yeah, that's great. See, I believe that there is a correlation between your spiritual growth and then your involvement in the local church. And so I think that your story is a testimony to that for sure. And I also think it's really cool as, somebody, I mean, I don't find you you said awkward, goofy, whatever, a dork, which I can relate, but I think it's great because the worship ministry and even like children's ministry gives you an ability to use your talents and gifts for the church. And you definitely have both of those in spades. So glad to have you as part of the team. But, oh man, there was a question and just completely blank. Oh yes, with the quarantine, we were chatting just a little bit before we started recording, and you were talking about the quarantine and how your time has been. So maybe you can share a little bit about that with the rest of the group and just how it's been for you during this time.
yeah. So as dorky and awkward as I am, I totally am. It's okay. Maybe you don't notice, but when I first meet someone, I'm kind of a nerd. It's okay. It's cool. Anyway, so I'm super extroverted, which I just recently learned. I always thought I was introverted and needed my alone time. But the second I actually got some time alone, because even when I'm alone, I'm at home with my sister. We live up here together. Anyway, so just being alone for maybe a couple of hours, I was like, oh my goodness, wait, okay, I just need to go to the store. And I'm like, wait, I can't go to the store. I'm like, I'll go nope, can't go get coffee. And then I just sat and I stewed. I was like, oh my gosh, I need people now. So I learned I'm very extroverted, and that's been kind of draining just because that's where my energy comes from, is
Yeah.
around other people. But other than that, it's been such a period of growth too, which is really cool. And God's done so many cool things in this time. like being able to sit down with more time to just do my devotionals
Hmm.
has been so incredibly awesome, and just more time to pray. And I think being at home, um, like when I'm doing my schoolwork, it's kind of hard sometimes because I'll get distracted and I'm just so zoned into homework. But being home, it just gives me more time to be in thought and prayer.
Hmm.
So that's really cool. And was working at David's Bridal before this, which I loved my job. Don't get me wrong, working with brides and helping them find wedding dresses is so cool. But also, it's a sales job, and I'm not a salesperson. There were many times that a bride would be like, I know you're a salesperson, like, I'm like, no, no, you're not getting this dress today. You are not ready. Like, you need to sit down, think about it. Okay, shop around some more. And I'm like, wait a second. But they never fired me. So that was cool. But anyway, not a salesperson, but a family in the church, the Maeve family. It's Alicia and Jeff, and then their children, Autumn and Owen. Such an amazing family. Oh my goodness. I absolutely adore them. They are so wonderful. But they needed a nanny because Autumn and Owen are now stuck at home doing their school. And just so happens that she had messaged Sienna, and I had just talked to Sienna the previous night about how I had been looking for jobs and I really just couldn't find anything. And so, oh my, oh gosh, sorry, my phone started buzzing. Oh,
Thanks.
anyway, so Sienna got a message from Alicia, and then she gave Alicia my contact info. And since then, I have been nannying for the family, and that's just been the biggest blessing in my entire life. I've never actually seen the dynamics of a Christian family kind of in action, just because I don't have that example anywhere in my life. And so, constantly being surrounded by a group of Christians, just like a family, it's been so cool. And the kids are so wonderful. Oh my goodness. They're both so incredibly well behaved and so sweet. And I adore them both. And Alicia is just an amazing woman. And Jeff's so great. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's been a huge, huge blessing. And I'm so grateful for that.
Well, that kind of fills your extrovert, quotient.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, their kids like just love hanging out. So it's cool because it's like, yeah, like Owen's like, yeah, come play Legos with me. Let's go play badminton. And so it keeps me active and talking to someone all day, which is cool.
Well, that's awesome. That's very cool. And also is right in line with what you want to do with pediatrics. So that's pretty neat.
I know any chance I get to be with kids is just a wonderful opportunity. They're just so cool.
Well, that's a huge blessing. How can we be praying for you in this time? I mean, you mentioned that you're an extrovert, so you like people, but how else can we be praying for you?
Um, Let me think. I always like focus on the good things. So thinking about the what I would need. Um, I don't know, just really letting this be a time of growth and
Hmm.
really just letting God like sink in and start working more through me. I think one thing that I've always struggled with is sharing the gospel. And so if I can find a route in my heart to start doing that, um, and just some clarity on how I can do that. I've had a couple different ideas on different things I could do. Like, I'm like, what if I made like a blog, a Christian blog or something to try to share the gospel, but just more clarity or something on how
Yeah,
I can do that. But yeah,
that's a great prayer, and I think one that God will most certainly answer if we're praying that for you. And that's great. I think that's something that we all struggle with. Uh, I know that I struggle with that too, for sure. So we can be praying for that. Okay, one last question for you. I want to know one fun, interesting fact about yourself.
okay, I totally have this. And I can even show you a demonstration if you don't believe me.
Okay.
But not only am I ambidextrous, but I can write with my toes.
What? Okay. We need a demonstration, Ariane.
Okay. Okay, right, ready. I need a piece of paper. I need a pen. Here's my living room.
Nice.
Nice
Okay,
little.
first we need to do the ambidextrous, and then we want to see you write with your
Oh,
toes.
okay. Then I probably need something to write on as well. Okay. We have a pen laying around. We get a binder. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Probably have to scooch this back just a little bit more so you can see my feet. But prepare to be amazed. Okay, wait. What am I writing though?
Write whatever you'd like to write.
Okay.
You can write anything.
Guess I can write my name. That's
Sure.
something easy. Okay. So kind of scooch it down just so you know. You have proof. So this is my right hand. And it's not as good of handwriting, obviously, because I'm more practiced with my right hand. But, oh boy, I started out crooked. Oh no. Okay, so we're going with the left hand now. Okay, so we have our right hand and our left hand here. It's a little backwards.
Love
Okay,
it. Now the feet. Here we go.
okay. Am I slightly embarrassed about this? Maybe, but it is a fun fact about me. Okay. Got to turn paper. Ah. It's so much harder to do this on an elevated surface. Usually I do it on the ground, but that is okay. So it's a little bit sloppy, but I can write my name with my toes.
That's great.
There we go.
How did you discover that talent?
Actually, so sitting in the living room with my mom, and I was talking about how I sit there and I'll practice writing with my left hand in class because sometimes I do not prioritize the best. And it was in high school. And so really it was AP government, that class. Whew, don't really like history. It's amazing and it's so useful to learn. But anyway, I would get bored. And so I'd write with my left hand. My mom was like, you know what? You have monkey toes. I bet you could write with your feet too.
Monkey toes.
Like,
nice.
well, maybe I should try it. So I did. And I can draw little pictures and stuff. They're a little scribbly, but especially if I'm sitting up on a chair and I'm writing down, the angle's a little bit better, but yeah.
That's impressive. Way better than I could do.
Yeah, it's so random, but when people ask for a fun fact, it's always the first thing that pops in my head.
Well, that is a fun fact. So
Yes.
Thank you for sharing and demonstrating.
Oh yeah. There you go. Everyone knows now.
Yeah.
We're all well informed.
Well, thank you, Arreanna. This has been a great interview, very fun. And
Yeah.
so we'll be praying for you and praying that you will have wisdom and clarity about knowing how to share the gospel, whether that be a blog post or whatever that might look like. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. This has been fun. Get my little social interactions in the day too. So it's great.
There you go. Well, thanks, Ariana.